project manager. Cody, over the years for Roll Seal, has run the production line for our door. He's worked in tech support. He's now in the field with us doing this right here. He mentioned it earlier, but this is really what he enjoys doing, is getting in front of guys like y'all. But most every day, he's doing exactly what y'all do every day, right? He's installing these, he's servicing them, so he is the guru of all that, and I'll kind of turn it over to him. But really what we're going to try to do today, it's a good situation to be here because we've really got both models of our door. The freezer we'll spend more time with just because it kind of encapsulates everything that the cooler does anyway. And then we also have this set up on the table back in the back that we'll look at, but this is just to show y'all our website, our YouTube page. We try like the devil to put as much as we can on YouTube as far as tutorial videos. There's a full install video of this door right here on YouTube that I want to say is maybe 6 or 7 minutes. It's not a devoted amount of time to watch it, but anyhow, we'll review all that with y'all today. But like I say, today's what you make of it. So ask questions, you know, get up here, touchy-feely, the whole deal. I'll let Cody rock on. My history right quick, I've been with Roll Seal about 20 years. This is not a new product in the grocery store market, very new to Aldi. Kind of our history here. We started in the backroom grocery industry in the mid-90s, mainly with Walmart, and so there's 10,000 of these doors throughout the U.S. in those locations. We've been on board with Aldi we had about a 2-year trial period where they gave us some divisions out in Arizona and up in New York, which was extremely convenient for a company based out of Alabama. You know, they picked the furthest places from us, but anyway, they fully went on spec with us in 2020. So we're probably in the neighborhood of 1,000 now as they keep building new stores. So again, not new, but probably new to some of you in the room. So again, I'll let Cody rock on and I'll get the heck out of the way. So go for it.
All right, guys. So I like to start out with, you know, a lot of people want to start Q&A at the end. I want to start at the beginning because I want to make sure we touch any area that you guys have had issues or have seen when you go into a store. You know, when it comes to these doors, I think, have all of you guys installed? Have all of you been on an install? You know, pretty cut and dry. You know, we'll send a manual with each one. I know it gets to a lot of verbiage in there, but we've got some pulled up. You can always pull up our manuals for any type door we have or any of the add-on options. If you got wave switches added on around the wall or anything like that, we have literature online. You can download it as a PDF on your phone. But kind of a quick start out. I've been with Roll Seal for 13 years. I've been there for 13 years, but like Zach said, I've started in, you know, the plant division. I've stayed in that side for forever. I built these doors, and then I turned into sewing panels to production. So been all around it. So don't be afraid to ask questions. If I get kind of quiet at some point, just tell me, speak up, fat boy. You can talk to me any way you want to. I'm cool with it. I like it. I want to start out with any issues. Have you guys had any issues straight up on an install that y'all brand new?
I got issues with the freezer doors condensating real bad, limits don't stay set, wrinkles in the doors that we can't get out. Doors kicking out track when they roll down.
Okay. I'm guessing probably the same part of the adhesive coming off there. Yeah. So, kind of touch on the adhesive real quick, and I think we just talked about it also. So we had a tape issue that we found out we had after it was already in the field, right? Started receiving some heat, started getting a little sticky. Where it gets hung up, where it causes that wrinkle, probably on the left-hand side, is probably what you saw it dealing with. That's also probably the same door you had the track kicking out on. So what it is that the tape getting the heat, it's causing this. It's causing the panel to get sticky here, and it's causing this front track to get sticky. So we have changed that. We went to a different type tape, but you know, when it comes to sourcing tape, you know, you buy from a vendor, through the COVID stuff, I think there were some things that like, oh, this is going to work. And, you know, so we've had some panels, we've had to send for changes. But if you catch it early, you can clean it. Once it's clean, it's like that initial heat to it, make it sticky. So that is something that has been addressed, and we have to fix that.
Degreaser?
You can do a degreaser, like any, Goo Gone. We've used Goo Gone, you know, but the main part where you're going to do that is when you walk in the inside, you see that ceiling flap. That's what's hanging that door. That sticky's getting on that flap. You know, that flap is what's hanging. And so when it gets to the bottom, it looks like you can adjust panels all day. But when you get that panel adjusted to get to that bottom, it keeps wanting to just do that. It looks like the door's level, but it's hanging that flap, which is pulling your center curtain. And that's where probably, when you say the tracks were kicking out, it was about this high. About that high. So that comes with that sticky panel. Like I said, that's been addressed.
Yeah.
You know, as far as what we're sending out, keep an eye for it. You know, if you see that, first thing I'd do is I would take this door all the way down, take it out of the track, and clean the flap right there close to where that to where your magnet's sewn on. But yeah, most of that's coming from the tape that's holding that, because all that is a strip of magnet with a tape over it sewn on top of it. So, like I said, that's been addressed, but keep an eye out. That may be something you ran into. You've ran into that already, so. But usually I explain that first time. You're good, but that's the issue we ran into. I'd say we had just a couple months.
Yeah.
You know,
so basically, we've gone to an acrylic adhesive. But like Cody said, what happened was, and it's that the reason you only see it on the freezer is it gets that, and the reason it's normally on that side is because that's the hot side, that's the exhaust side of our heat system. And you know, once it gets that first initial heat, I don't know what the proper term is, right? But that's when the stickiness comes out, if you will. But like Cody said, with the cleaning the flap, it's not something that continues to leak out. Does that make sense? It's like once it's leaked, it's done. But obviously, you know, that's the kind of stuff we want to know, because you know that one's an example of something we've already seen and fixed, but it could have just as easily been something we've never heard of, you know.
So I think that probably answers a couple of questions there. You know, when you get outside of that scope, panels hanging up, man, these doors can you know, like you can honestly grab that drop pop and twist it. So the only thing bringing that door down is when it's released with that motor is the weight of that tension rod. So if something's driving it, you know, you can look as far as, you know, when you install, I know it, you don't always deal with perfectly level concrete. This is not perfectly level all the time. Some places worse than others. So the big thing on that is you can shim. You can shim it. It'll go a little bit past the very bottom. So don't be afraid to shim when you need to. Main thing I do when I throw it on the wall, first thing I'm leveling is the head unit. I put a level on top of that head unit. I have, you know, the cover's off, of course, when you do it, but find the solid bar on it. Don't use the top bar. Use that solid little lip up top. Put your level on. Once you got that level, you can kind of just put one screw in it, leave it, you know, it's on the wall, then level your track out. But you know, most time I've seen where it gets kicked around or whatever would be, you install it, your track's at level, and you go to do it, that head unit's kicked just a little bit, which causes those tension pops to want to kind of walk back and forth. And when that happens, you can adjust. You know, like even if it's a little bit out, you can adjust the panel to make it work. That's not an issue, but we'll go through adjustments. But it's 10 times easier if you go through and make sure, check your levels before you do anything. Which I'm sure you guys probably already do that, but I'm just saying that's the big one that I've seen. I've seen some that's crazy kicked, and you know, they're like, hey, the heat's losing. I'm like, well, yeah, your panel's completely out of the track on one side. So that's the biggest thing to check on an install. But also we have the components inside of it. Everything's going to be pretty much plug and play. I know, You want to have the fans wired up to shut off when the door's open. And I'll get up there and we'll kind of go through that process for the wiring there. On this door, one thing I did see is on your power, you see how you have that open loop right there in the bottom? There's a plate that goes to, and we've seen the screws already in the track, and we'll want to make sure to mount that, and you have a little plug and a hole where you can put an Elliott in there and run any external cables to come through that unit. And we can fix that real quick, that's not a problem. But outside of that, these doors, they look good. You know, I guess it'd be one thing to talk about these ballers. You know, this emergency egress, these things will carry right now, they'll hit that, but when they go to pull this, right now their tension pop may hit that. Now granted, I can just bring it up over, right? But depending on who you're dealing with, you know, depending on who you're dealing with, they may kick up something about that. And it may be one of those things where, well, y'all pulling the curve too, or it's already here?
Yeah, so the Aldi spec, and we see this more than anything else at an Aldi nationwide, right? So that the spec is 14 inches from the wall, but again, we see it all over the map. You know, we've been to doors before where they'll actually use this and pour the concrete around that track, which looks really good, but then you can't, you know, nothing works.
Then you got a Dremel trying to cut your track.
Always watch that for sure.
Yeah. But your installation cooler freezer, has there been a big difference that y'all noticed with doing that, or pretty much you done the freezer and felt pretty good going right to the cooler? Not much of a difference. It's just the ductwork going to the heat unit. That's really the only difference between the two, and the fact that the freezer has to have 208, and then the cooler is going to be your 115. Are you guys setting it up when are y'all plugging it up to the temporary cord off the disconnect and setting limits when y'all do it? Okay, so y'all are setting those up to begin with. We'll go through the limit set with all that, and guys, don't be afraid to get hands on. The more you want to get in there and touch it, I feel pretty confident I can fix it. So you can play with whatever you want to in there. I'm cool with it. As long as I'm here today, I feel pretty good about it. And that doesn't mean go extreme. I see where we could go here, but it's not a challenge. It's not a challenge. You don't get a hat if you beat me.
You broke it. You got it.
But yeah, we'll kind of stick with the freezer right now since that's where we're at. Then we'll move to the cooler if you have any questions. Pretty much, if you can do anything inside this freezer, it's all going to be the same in the cooler. We'll pull off some of the track, kind of look inside. Go through any of the potential issues. And I know once you guys do the install, you guys are taking over the service, right?
Right.
So we'll kind of go through things you can look at from that point of view too. We'll start right here in the controller. I'll pop this hood up. Boy, that's a thin ladder. So looking at everything is going to control that doors right here inside this control box. So lingo when you call us. If you call that number on the side, you're going to talk to either me or Shane. Most of the time you're talking to Shane. He's going to be in the office. Main things to tell us is, hey, my controller's inside the head unit. If you tell us that, we know exactly what version you got. Cooler, freezer, controller's inside the head unit, we'll know exactly where to go. You see that we have a row of lights, and it's going to be here and here. Now I've opened the door to show it. But you'll see that whole row of lights. This is going to indicate most of your issues. Like if the door's hung up open, you're going to even see that PS light stays on. That means the beams are blocked. So PS up top, primary safety, 100% your beams, nothing else. Now your auxiliary safety is this light right up in the middle. That's your sensor in the middle. That's always auxiliary safety. And right now, it's turned completely off. You do have ability, now you'll see it light up there every time, even if it's turned off, but if it was on, it would restrict itself.
Can't find a spot with it.
Sorry, guys.
So then the third option, you have lead edge. If the lead edge is going to be a light that's going to flash when the door auto reverses. That's going to be if this door tries to come down and it catches something like a panel or like a buggy that's not interfering with the lights, it's going to auto reverse. But all you're going to see is an immediate flash, and then it's going to go to everything flashing again. So it's going to be one of those quick triggers that you watch. That's going to be the same thing for either one of these, auxiliary safety or lead edge. It doesn't stay lit by itself. It's only going to light up the moment there's an issue. Home switch, this is the little laser dot you can see if you look from underneath. That's what's telling us the home sensor is what that is. So when you first initially set this door up, or every 25 cycles, that door runs further in the head unit, and you hear it, and then it'll kind of have a little drop. All it's doing is getting above that home sensor and saying this is 0. It's a calibration. Feedback error, the FE. If you see that lit up, that means it's telling you that there's an error code in that screen. That error code is usually going to be like a EOF1, EOF2. It could be an EC1. That's going to be above your home sensor. And that's one of those things we call us. Like Zach said, there's not a stupid question. Usually, as long as you're in front of the door, we can get pretty quick to the answer. And then you go to your last three. OP's open, CL's closed, and ST is stopped. You guys don't have a stop on this, so it's open and closed. But if the door's open and that open light's lit up, we're going to be looking for moisture somewhere, probably on this inside switch. That's where if you install the door and you drill that hole to run the wire through and you don't fill it back with caulk or foam, whatever you need to fill it up with, ambient temperature within that hole is going to bring moisture, and we got circuit boards, right in here, and they do some crazy things. So if you talk to us and you say something like that, your door's just doing something real crazy, first thing we're probably going to do is, hey, let's see if we got moisture. I don't know, is everything y'all dealt with going to be the wave switch on the inside? Have y'all done some that have the in-pace open and close button that looks just like that panel?
I've done some of both.
You've done some of both? Okay. So that wave switch fully enclosed on itself. The only time you see moisture getting in that is if that little press-in seal comes out.
As of now, just to note, the wave switch is current Aldi spec. So everything going forward will be the wave switch on the inside.
Yeah. But if you deal with the old one, same thing we're looking for. You can take off the cover of that, unplug it, you can see the moisture. And that's going to be kind of right there. That's the only place you should be really drilling a hole into the booth. As long as that's filled up, you're not going to have issues. But if you drill it, forget about it, you could see potential issues coming with that. But outside of that, everything's plug and play. Great motors. Don't assume that it's a motor. Like, call us before you say it's a motor. We'd rather you do that. The reason for that is because 99% of the time it's not. We sell, especially like these and the older type doors, we'll see where there'll be a tech somewhere, Walmart's bad about it. Their tech won't call and they say, the motor's bad. Well, what is that motor? I mean, the motor's probably one of the most expensive parts on the door. They're ordering that when it's a little brake relay on that circuit board. So they get a new motor, put it on, and it still doesn't do anything. So it's a big difference in price, but call us before you ever go to a motor. Because we're going to search for something else first.
It's never.
Yeah. Never say never.
No, it's never.
But
That's never.
very often it's not. I troubleshot with a guy one time for about an hour, and I was like, dude, it is not your motor. He never told me they hit that motor with a forklift and I had a hole in it. So it was his motor. He just did not tell me. That's why I say, I'm not saying never. I've seen it one time. But we'll kind of go up into the controller real quick. Try to get up here where everybody can see.
It's hard to see from here too, but all those error codes and everything are also listed on the front of that controller. So if you are getting a EOF1 or something, it'll tell you what that reference is.
So when you call us lingo, I know you guys are cooler guys, so when I say panel, I'm talking about this. Most of the time you're thinking of the actual panel of the cooler. But if you're calling me and I say panel, I'm talking about the fabric of the door. When I say controller, we're talking in here. This is your main circuit board. This is your drive board. And that's going to be your freezer board in the back. All of the, anything mechanical with the door as far as hanging up, open, close switch, it's going to tell you on the outside of this controller. If you're having issues with your, if you're having some sort of issues with the element or something in the heater part, it's going to tell us here on this board. So we'll pull up a sheet that we can see much better than everybody can see on the ground right now, but you see these LEDs lit up, those all mean something. If any of the red ones are lit up, that means we're reading a different ambient temperature. I believe this one, I think we didn't have an end on or something. So I'm sure that when y'all called Shane on that one, did you see did they take it to red light?
Yeah, it was lit up.
So it's reading a different temperature, because all we're doing with this heat is we have a fan on this side. Fan is pulling and pushing the hot air over here. Your element's right behind this. Also to know with your element, disconnect your power full to the door before you go mess with that, because you can turn this toggle switch off, your element's still receiving power. It branches off, so that power's still going to it. So if you have to get in there to check anything, and we're not telling you, hey, we're gonna check your voltages, if you have to go do something in there, shut it, disconnect it from the door right there.
The reason we do that is so somebody can't turn that power switch off and feel heat to the door. And worst case scenario, we still want the heat running.
So yes, this will kind of tell us everything. It tells us if the fan's not if there's a fan stalled out. It's reading ambient, it's reading temperatures, and what it's reading is off the two thermistors on each side. So this one's got a set point it's going to be reading, and that one has another. So we're looking at the heat's traveling through the panel, because if you have a broken seal or something on the inside, when this is pulling back, it's not pulling heat, it's pulling cold air. So it's going to judge that difference of the temperature, and it's going to tell you, hey, something's wrong with me.
If it does that, if you ever get a phone call, one of the things that the door is designed to do is if it's reading too big of a temperature difference between those two elements, it's designed to auto cycle. In other words, it's normally looking to see about 10 degrees difference. If it sees 15, 20 degrees difference for X amount of time, the door is telling itself something's wrong. Either somebody's bumped my fabric and I'm blowing heat into the freezer instead of the door. So it will automatically open and then shut. So every now and then, if you ever get the phone call, man, I'm just back here working and this door open and closed, that a lot of times that's what it is. It's doing it by design to self-correct something.
That one did that, remember, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Opened itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was doing it because of that. When it didn't have the,
That's right. Because they sent us a video, like, man, we got here.
There's a ghost.
Yeah.
But it should shut itself and stay shut unless it reads another issue.
Right.
But the assumption there is, you go some places and they close at night, and the booth has, let's say the vents freeze up or something, and it causes more pressure. It breaks that inside seal. It's meant to recognize that, open, should alleviate that pressure, close itself and stay sealed. That's kind of what that's designed for. So that's kind of telling you what these components do. Everything on these components are plug and play. You should never unwire anything. Even if it comes to, right now you have your fans tied in right here. If you had to change this board, pull that whole connector off. Don't unwire it and try to do it with the next one. Just pull the connector off, it'll plug right onto the next one. This drive. Foolproof way with this drive is, I don't know if you can see it, but can you see two lights lit up on this drive? Guys? Alright, so as long as you have the door sitting still, as long as you have a green light on power and kind of an amber light sitting steady on status, that drive's good. The only time we ever see those drives go out, it's an influx of power, it's something that's shot that drive, and the first thing that's going to go is those lights. Either you're going to have like a green power light, nothing on status, or you're going to have a power light blinking. If it's different, that's the part you're looking to replace. And your door won't do anything without it. It won't open, close, you won't get anything to run. So, should be able to components. You'll see this sensor. Your home sensor's back here. You're going to see it. And on the way you're not going to be able to see it, but when we get done, y'all want to look under, you'll see the red dot. That's what that home sensor is looking for. But again, every component's plug and play. So we'll shut this back. And we'll do a deeper dive. We'll kind of get on there. We'll kind of look at some of the forms we got on the computer and stuff. And then if you have any questions, we'll get right back up here at the end and go through whatever it is you need to go through. But now we'll kind of look at the settings. So when we say P settings, we're talking about the parameters on this. You have P1, it tells you every parameter setting we have. So if you go through setting limits or doing whatever you're doing, of course you're holding down the mode button. You hold down that mode button until you get to P1. So I'm at P1 right now. And P1 is going to read out my close time delay. So right now you're at 20 seconds. You have a full ability to change that. Aldi spec is 20 seconds. So leave it at 20. Yeah. So leave it at 20. If there's special occasions or whatever else, I guess you work it out with them, but that is an Aldi spec. So when we change that, P3 is the deceleration range. It's on 5 right now. You're never really going to mess with it. It's going to come on 0. So we'll put it back on 0, but you're never going to mess with that. That's not anything y'all going to ever need to mess with. P4, that's your auxiliary output. That is your first dry contact in this controller. So I'm going to open this up and get back to it. So if you're bringing fans in, or if they have a system to where they can monitor from, you can monitor from your house somewhere that, hey, that door's staying open. It is auxiliary 1. It's going to be this one right here. It's the one that these wires are wired into right now. And it's going to say it on that circuit board. All that is just a dry contact. It's going to send the signal for whatever you set it on. You have 2 dry contacts in this controller. You have that one, which is auxiliary, but they are just made for dry contact, just signal wires. And right now you have it set on 4, so you're getting a fully closed indicator out of it. When we go here to P7, you're going to see that'll be at 25. Leave that at 25 at all times. That is a refresh limit. That's a recalibration for the door itself. So, like I said earlier, if you cycle the power, it's going to go up past the home switch, and then every 25th cycle in normal operation, it's going to do the same thing, calibrate itself, make sure it knows where 0 is. 10, service cycle reset. That's going to go, it's on no. So P11, the next setting is like if you were to do like a preventative maintenance. We don't have anything telling you to do preventative maintenance, but if you guys decided, hey, your door hits 100,000 cycles, we just want to make a trip to look at it, whatever it may be, you can set that. So the next one is P11, which is your service reminder. When you hit P11, right now it's set for a service reminder to sit there and tell you at 240,000 cycles. Right now, that's what it's set for, but you can adjust that. You can go down to it. You can go down to 1,000, you can go as high as 240, I think is the highest.
Yeah.
But all that does is, only way you know is this total cycles light, when it's when that is set, in normal operation, it's just going to kind of blink at you, saying, hey, I've hit that mark. It's not going to shut the door down or anything like that, it's just going to blink. So if you ever call them like, hey man, this total cycles is blinking, I'm like, that's cool. You know, to me it don't matter, but if y'all wanted to set something like that, you can set that service reminder, and if you set it to that, the way to reset it from blinking is go to P10 and just reset it there. Change it to yes and it'll reset it back to 0. So going to P12, if we get to P12, we're deep. With you guys, if we say, hey man, let's go look at P12, we're about to have fun. Alright, so that's for me. But I have it set right now, but what this is showing you all your statuses. Showing you every bit of your statuses. So you can kind of see it on this diagram, but like that, this bottom line on the first number would be auxiliary. Your home switch would be this line. It's every little line up here tells you, and that's really hard to do over the phone. You're going to say the third number, it's going to be the bottom right of the 3. You know, so that's why I say we're deep. We're not trying to go there. Then if I go to P20, and if you sit in P12 long enough, it shuts stuff down. P20 is your open input. So these are going to be set to 0, and I think Aldi standard 0. It's timed. It's going to time itself out. But for a special situation occasion, we can change that. One of those occasions would be if we find moisture on a switch, or mainly the old style. What we do with an old style is if there's moisture getting to that inside switch and we had to eliminate it so the door would function, we would change this to 2, which is a manual. You have to hit open and you have to hit close. But we would do that so that somebody could get out. They could leave it open while they're in there, come out and hit close until you got a new board. But you have full capability of changing that if you need to. P21. You can change that from momentary to maintained. We send it at momentary, leave it at momentary. Again, it's a special situation that you may run into if you have to change it. We're never going to change it, I'll be honest with you. That's not in this setting. But if you did see it on one, if you got to the door and you hit open and you're like, man, I'm having to hold it down the whole time it runs, if I let go it stops, it's probably set to 1. Change it back to 0, so 1 touch and it'll do its full cycle. P22, that is this sensor right here. It's going to be set to 0 right now, which is disabled. We send it on 2. So when we send it on 2, that is safety and time. That means if you walk up under this sensor, it's going to automatically open the door. And then if anybody walks underneath it and that sensor catches it while it's trying to close, or even while it's open, it's going to reset the timer. You can change that to safety and time, which we have. That's what it's going to come out from the factory on. If you change it to 1 to enabled, it is safety only. You can't walk up in front of the door and open the door. It will only pick up motion while it's open. So it's acting as a secondary, third, really a third safety. We have a lot of places that leave it on that just for tight hallways. You know, this one's probably off because traffic's right through here. We'll turn it on. I'll change it to 2 just so everybody can kind of see what's happening with that, and then we can adjust it back. I'll change it to 2 for right now. P23, it's on 0. It will always be on 0. There's an option to change it. We're not changing it here in this setting. P24, that is that second dry contact. And you'll see on this one, it's always going to be, I think we send it out on 0, but you can only change it to 1, which is fully closed. But if you have to read open for 2 different signals or whatever else it may be, just double up in your open, in your first auxiliary. You can put multiple things on it because all it is a dry contact, so it's not taking a lot. P25, it's always going to be on 30. You're not messing with that either. No use for it. P26, same thing. Those are very unique situations, and if we got into one of those, we'd let you know. But then PS1, that's where you're setting your limits. I'm sure you guys have done this. I'm sure all of you guys have messed with the limits, right? You just change, PS1's always going to say no. Change it to yes. When you hit mode, that door's going to operate for you.
It's going to operate very slow.
Yeah.
Set up.
Yeah. Yeah, anytime you cycle power or go to setup, it is going to be at a much slower speed. Alright, so this is our lower limit. If you need to drop it, you can. If you need to raise it up, you can. You know, so you'll leave it right there. When you hit mode again, that door's going to go on down. And all we're doing is when we leave mode and that's on 8, we've set the upper limit. And that's where it's going to go to. Now it's going to go to your lower. When it comes from the factory, it's going to stop. Sometimes they'll stop halfway. That's more of the oven stuff. This is going to be close. It's going to be close, but sometimes it'll stop halfway, depending on what they said in the factory. But you're going to go, is the white fabric on the ground? No? So you want the white fabric touching the ground. If you look under, you'll see a flap. That flap's doing its job, but you want the fabric on the ground. That flap's more or less really trying to save you in an unlevel floor, or the floor's beat up, or you have, you know, obstacles in the way. So we're going to drop that on the ground right there. Alright.
It's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
Not on the ground.
This side's closer on that.
Right there it is. You got to be right there.
Yeah.
Now if you do that and it hits the ground on one side, not the other, probably dealing with level concrete, that's where your flaps go into play. But it should be pretty close. If there's a big gap, something's hanging up. But so you're going to want to put that fabric on the ground. Don't go too far. If you go too far, you'll see the flaps wanting to open up. That just means you put too much on it. But as long as you're sitting right on the ground right there and everything looks good, you're fine. Hit mode and you save the limits. Everything's saved. I set it off because I turned that sensor. So let me hop down.
That's our number 1 tech call today. Somebody's in front of the door trying to close it, but that sensor's on, so they'll hit close, then they'll back up, and every time they back up, they're hitting that sensor, and they'll say, man, my door won't shut, and we're like, be still. Back away a few feet, stop going up the door.
So that door's still going to do the timing out as long as somebody doesn't walk in that path. That path is going to be 2 or 3 feet right in the middle. So once it's closed, right now it's set to time and safety. So when I walk up close, it's going to pick me up, it's going to open. So you're about this range. So know that for your hallway space. You know kind of where, and I think Aldi's pretty much the same, or at least when they're building you, they're going with the same footprint. But then it's going to start over. If somebody walks in, this sensor, that sensor's going to catch you. It's going to start over at time. So that's kind of where it's subjective store to store of what you want to leave it on. I don't know what Aldi's, does Aldi spec that?
Yeah, they spec 20.
Well, not 20 seconds. I'm talking, do they spec the sensor?
They do, but there's knowledge that it's a store to store.
Okay.
You know, decision.
Was this one turned off for traffic, or do we know? Okay, so we do want to set that back.
Yeah, 'cause coming through that door, they're killing it.
We try to make it awkwardly close, but
Yeah.
it's hard to do.
Also to know, that's timed and safety. If you change it to 1, the door's open. It's only going to read something if it's open or attempting to close. then it'll trigger the same thing, but you leave that off sometimes just because it's traffic. Somebody's walked in, somebody's walking around with a car, they keep triggering it, it's going to stay open. As long as it doesn't get to close, it's just going to keep resetting that timer. So
At 20 seconds, you know, it's bearable. You know, when we run into situations, and not to throw folks under the bus, like Kroger's a good example. You know, we'll go to a Kroger and somebody's gone up there to change that close setting to like 3 minutes, which is ridiculous on the freezer. What they don't realize is they're changing it to 3 minutes, but then every time you walk through it, it starts back over at 3 minutes. So it's not odd for that thing to sit there for 10, 15 minutes open. So we'll go change them back down, then they'll go change them back.
So I'll change that back. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what that was capable of. So I think that one over there has some tape on it. Don't ever worry about taping it. You can shut it off right there at that controller if it's giving you an issue with it, the traffic or you know whatever the reason may be. You can just shut it off with that controller. You don't have to throw tape on it. Because the bad thing about throwing tape is eventually tape falls off, and then you're getting a nuisance call, and you're like, well, we ain't had this before. It looks like something different, but you know, tape fell off or something. I was kind of going through the setting parameter side. Anybody have any questions on that?
So y'all are setting the limits, obviously, and then y'all are adjusting V4 based on your, to shut the fans off when the door opens. That's it.
And that's the only thing you're running in the external wire for, right?
That's it.
So that'll take me we'll kind of go back onto the installation side, and I'll kind of show you things. I'm like, I looked for this because there's one thing y'all did, and I thought it was good. I'll do it before I change that. I see y'all put some fan heads to tighten this to the wall, and you know, depending on what's going on with your box, that's not a bad thing. So you don't want to do anything with that head on it. So the fan heads are fine. But if you get somewhere and you're like, hey, I can fix some of the paint head, but I've got damaged panel, usually on more on retrofit things, or if they hit this at some point. That's going to, you can always fill that with caulk, but you do want to keep it tight still on those cracks. Y'all done a good job here on that. Now, one thing I did see, so right here, so to keep you from having to do that, we send these little pan heads in a kit, these holes back here. So that gasket's back here, but we also have another strip back here. Those pan heads are meant to go right there. Now, you guys put them right there, doesn't hurt anything. Depends on, trust me, I know every situation's different when you're in the field. But, you know, if you get to the place where it's damaged, don't try to bend this too much, just use caulk in the backfield.
One of the hardest projects I run into is figuring out the panels rolled all the way down. A lot of trouble getting right off.
Yeah, so kind of the bad situation you've been in there is the fact that you're getting those wrinkles, but it's also the doors are not getting sticky. So getting those fixed, right? That's not something that we need to fix. So not normally going to deal with it. And like this one's adjusted, this panel's been adjusted. That side's been pulled. Pull the corners, and this one's done good. This one's done right. Always play with just the corners, and we send a little thing, you know, on that. If it's crazy out, you may have to kind of work it, but most times in an Aldi, concrete's not going to be so far out and dealing with that. But also it comes with making sure that head unit's perfectly level, and you're probably not going to deal with that either. But yeah, your situation, it's hard to say, you know, when you adjust it, it don't work, because we know we had that sticky stuff happening, and you can adjust all day.
This was on different. It was up in the stores in behind. Didn't have any sticky residue on it whatsoever. I adjusted the corners just basically like this one is.
Yeah.
And come back 2 or 3 days later, the door wouldn't roll down. It would come down about halfway and look out.
This model,
I dropped it back to the original mounting location. Never had another issue. Other than it would sit every now and then like that.
well, that could be over adjustments. You know, that could be because usually when you're seeing the bubble come, that's the side thing to come up. But if you're making big adjustments, it may be adjusting your back too, because those tension pops are going to run roughly, you know, they're running pretty close together. So if you have to make a lot of adjustment, when you're adjusting that corner, all you're doing is changing the pitch of that top. So if you have to do a big adjustment on the front, it could cause that top corner catch the back, or you know, you're lifting one
That's
side
kind
up
of what I
closer.
think that one's doing, because you would sit there and watch it, it's like those pipes would catch and flip each other.
Yeah. Was it this model or the older?
It was a little older.
Okay, so it had the
two years ago.
yeah, it didn't have the breakaway track.
No,
Okay. So they won't cross each other in that, but they will grab each other, and that's where it's going to hang on. And then one side, depending on what side grabs, because that one had a different lead edge. Our lead edge system in there, if y'all can see that 1-inch bar in there. Basically, when that door's rolling down, the weight of those pops is holding tension in that bar, and it's holding it against those micro cylinders on each side. When it feels when it hits something, all it does is relax that center panel, and that bar goes away, and once it unclicks, that's what drives it up. So that's the lead edge on this one. The one you're talking about had a switch with the yellow wires coming out. So if it grabbed on this side, or it grabbed on this side, grabbed on this side, and this side kept coming down, it would, what that's doing is that's still pulling tension, because it's still continuing to travel. That's why it wasn't auto reverse for you. But if you're having to do a big adjustment like that, I'd look for, on those old ones, look for damage. Look for, because on those old ones, you're going to see the damage right out the gate on these. The old ones have the cover that don't flip up. You have to take the cover off. If they hit it with a forklift, or they hit it with something up top, they got boxes too high, and they crush that, we call it a C channel on the inside. That's what's holding all your switches. If they hit that C channel and bend it in, one, when the door tries to go up, it may try to hang those pops and it's going to throw you an error code because it's never getting it home. Or it's going to do something like that where they've hit that and it's causing that one pop to hang. Then it's just a solid. It's going to cause a massive loss. So damage there, damage to the track. Those old styles, they're solid track. So with this one, you get some damage, it's going to puff the track out. The other ones, they're set. So we always look for damage in that and the old ones. Do y'all deal with any of the old ones? Okay. One day if we ever get a phone call, we may call you. So
We got those ones in Marino, remember?
oh yeah. So that was old style.
Yeah.
Yeah, they done some work for that one. But yeah, so differences between the two models. Anytime that you run into one, of course, call us. You're going to get my card, so you'll have my personal cell phone. If I don't answer, it doesn't mean I don't like you. That means I'm on a flight, I'm in front of somebody, I travel. But you're more than welcome to call me. If it's 11 o'clock at night, you call. Trust me, my wife's used to it, and she don't care at all. So, she probably cares, she just tells me to leave. But also we got the number on the side. That's going to be old, new, same number. And again, indicate controllers here. If it's an old one, you're going to have an external controller, and we're going to ask you if it's a blue or black label. And that tells us everything we need to know. When you call the tech, you can give us a serial number. We're going to spend as much time looking at it than just trying to figure it out with you on the phone. So, along with that, kind of going on that install side, this right here, I may take this off. Hey Zach. Yes, sir. Tell me that, yeah. Yeah, so they've done the same things that was talking about. That curve's right against this, so it makes it difficult. I may not. Yeah.
Well, since we don't have that bracket,
I tell you what, I'll take the other one off. Hey, is the other one the same way? That curve the same way?
That's the reason I've got the
since that bracket's not up there, I've been.
Oh, okay, you got that.
actually slide the whole.
I got you. You got it. I got you. I'll grab one. We first did these, that bracket wasn't an option to take off.
Yeah, there was a couple of them. Gotta go through.
You can see on the back side of this. Oh, I did it in my hand. But on the back side of this, that's the circuit board. That's where we're going to ask you if you're looking for moisture. On the install, which you guys have done plenty of now, these photo sensors, if you don't plug them in on that side, it's all going to come rolled up in this top bar and you have to feed it down. If you forget to plug up the side, the door's not going to work, but when you turn it on, that PS light's going to be lit up. And also, that's a 4-pin connector. The other issue with a 4-pin connector is you can turn it any way you want to and plug it in. So we've even went to where I think, this one's done before we made the change, but we put like a yellow dot on the connector and kind of tell you what side's up. But if you get in there and look at it, you'll see there's basically a little cutout to catch the flip on. This right here, we really need to get some spray foam, fill that. Right now that's open. That's just drilled and open, so we need to fill that up. But the other part, put this in my pocket,
Mason work.
Do it.
Passenger back seat.
I ain't gonna pocket it. So when we
I
send
think I seen
this,
a can there.
we're sending the channels for the heat. That's going to come in that box. It comes with the hardware kit and all that. It's going to be in that box. These things aren't going to work. Like, it's going to freeze in days because that heat's not traveling. Main thing is check your brackets. Make sure your brackets is tight. You know, this one's a little kick, but as long as it's on the as long as it's on that gasket on both sides, it's creating that seal, you're fine there. But main thing is when you slide them in and it fits, you're getting that seal made with all the brackets around. It's this bracket and that bracket up top, same way on both sides. And don't forget to plug your thermistors up. If you're plugged up, it's fine. But feeding it in from the bottom, make sure you don't get those. There's a little cutout that's got 3 little pieces of metal coming down. Make sure they all slide in. You can shift it and get one side to slide out. It just creates an air gap. And now you still would fill it up with this. It just kind of, it'll kick it. It'll make it more difficult for you trying to put this bracket. When we send this, it's going to come with these 2 bolts right here. You take these 2 bolts out by hand. Sometimes they may be in there tight enough, you actually need a socket for it. But this is where your power is supposed to mount. That way none of your, see right now they're crossed up. that right here. What I'll do is I'll try to go find an Elliot, but this pops out and that gives you a place to put an Elliot to run the cable right here. But then when the door closes, it's still gonna, because this will go over the top of that, and that's still gonna go over the top. That's where you want to mount those. You do run into situations, I get it sometimes. Well, with Aldi, you shouldn't run into that situation. But if you ever go into a store where they've got like a tight corner and they basically put this up against the wall, that's where you can adjust with that. You got to bring it in. Don't ever screw into this, but you can bring it in and find a way of mounting it closer in just so that it's only cable. Because again, if you had a wall right here, you wouldn't make that turn. But in these situations, you want to put it like that, just because that's going to hold it steady and that gives you a place to bring your wires in. Without leaving that gap. There's just something else to get snagged on something. And again, there's a load right across the road. We can get that and do this one. Plugging your harnesses, y'all guys done fine with that, no issues. But yeah, that's the main thing you want to go through on the install side. This bracket right here is removable. If you go to an older one, they're not removable. Doesn't mean you can't get a Dremel. Do what you got to do. We send like a replacement kit where if you cut it, you can reattach it. So if y'all guys run into that anywhere, that's something we do have. Before we leave this one, any questions? Anybody want to get up here and do anything you haven't done or feel uncomfortable with? You're more than welcome. Today? Today's it?
No.
Okay.
CJ figured it out. He finally read his manual. I actually finally read through the manual. But finally read through the manual. I was like, oh, that's a good stuff. We've been just taking it loose, setting it on top of the coolers, and then.
I know how it is. Last thing I'm going to look in is the instruction manual, I'll be honest. That's anything I buy for the house. And then you get through the end, you find out where that one bolt goes, and it's at the very beginning.
Yeah, we got to take a lot of stuff apart to put it in.
Yeah.
No, I was telling about the kickstand, how long it took us to figure out you finally read through one of the manuals, like, hey, that's a kickstand.
That's what I was talking about. Brian, that's the name. Yeah, I was on the phone with about something. Stand right there. What are you talking about? He told me I was doing that. The whole time I had his kickstand.
We've just been grinding them out, setting them on.
Yeah.
Drop back in.
I was saying, he told me about that. I was like, shit, that's the best thing. Nothing over.
Hoping I can get there.
You have to take right here.
Yeah, I was hoping right there.
We had to take it off and get it in there. I know, I had to take it off and get it in there.
One thing to know on installing this one, power's in a different spot, but we don't have like screws to screw it into. We send those screws you mount the door with. These holes right here is where that plate was mounted at. That just gives you the ability to disconnect it. Let's see how much play I got in this wire. But you're gonna mount right there, and that cover's made to go right over it. But there's two punched holes, but you got to put the screws in it. I think I got some screws in the truck. Mount that one. This door's gonna be exactly the same. Of course, you don't have the CMS unit up top, but your settings, Everything's going to be exactly the same, your P settings. Nothing's going to change between this door. Trying to think anything that would be any different.
Obviously, you don't have your freezer board in the back, the one we were referencing up there that's got the green lights on it. You don't have that one here.
It's a whole lot lighter.
A whole lot lighter. A lot less can go wrong. And it's also a lot less of a panic mode when something does go wrong. Now, if something goes wrong with the cooler, folks in the back room right now. If something goes wrong on a negative 10 freezer,
Pretty sure the motor's bad.
yeah, that's right.
Because the motor never goes bad. We shouldn't have another motor.
I want to go through these limits real quick because I got a.
That's right.
It's doing enough to pop. If you can see that primary safety light on, it's not going to affect the door functioning. You know, I ain't seen issues with that. But anytime it closes, and if you see that light, either we're set too low or something's out that's making that track kind of pop open to see it. And right now it's this track because I can push it in and take that light out. So.
The good thing is if you do, you can go around all the hair dryers.
That's rolling up really slow.
Do what?
So that's rolling up really slow.
Yeah, I'm in the program. So it's going to do that anytime you program it, or first time you turn power on and off.
You went too fast, too. We don't know what this is.
That's fine there. And we'll drop her.
I have actually.
If it's dropping, you ever accidentally hit the arrow, it just stops it. Just use the arrow to take it the rest of the way down.
Doors that have the bigger switch on the inside, and they took the cover off that switch. And
I could have waited until it got closer to the ground to do that.
and I'm like, I'll do it every time.
That's what you get.
That critter. Get inside.
If they're able to put through, they can squeeze.
Apparently so, but I don't know what
The
he's
other one I seen was the older stock one, you know, your stuff in time to switch. Maybe you know,
We on the ground?
That's a big
It's on the
thing.
ground.
Just that blade.
I had one of
Same thing with this one. You got those holes. You put those screws in.
them separate. She wasn't ready.
Make sure that seal's made in the back. These right here, yeah. There's some paint heads you can hit those with, and then, like I said, the paint heads that were on the very inside lip on that side don't hurt. As long as they're paint heads, that's fine. But you can also use caulk. Either way, you got to go. This was set on 20. No, I'll take this off so we can know that they're set. Nope. I'll change that too. So that one again is your P22. Yeah. It's on 2. We're going to change that to 0.
You get in. We can move. Come on.
You know how much effort it took to go up to?
I know. He's looking at you, man.
Go ahead.
You got 3 seconds. Oh, right. This door will also alarm if it's left open like this. And
It'll be a little quicker,
yeah,
and then it'll solid.
it's a factor of your close time.
Yeah. Yeah, so if your close time's on 20, at 60, it's going to start beeping. And then does it start narrowing down every 20 seconds?
Right, every 20
seconds.
seconds.
Then it's going to get faster, and then it's going to lower the crap out of it. Yeah.
Which is the goal, but
Yeah, we had that one.
There's your beep. And then it's going to gradually just get faster, and it's just going to scream.
yeah,
So-
it'll just be solid.
And then that's when you see people figure out how to unplug the thing. It's there for a reason, but trying to think of anything. Oh, one thing I do want to definitely point out, manual operations. This is a big problem for you guys for the most part, but you guys may need it, you know, just in case you got somewhere with power. But if you put a socket on that I don't know if y'all can see it. Can you see it's a 3/4 socket goes on the nut that's welded on the drive pipe.
Yeah.
Impact is not enough torque. You need a drill. So that's the main thing to know, because you put it on an impact, it's not enough torque to raise that door. Put it in a drill. You can manually do it with the drill. And worst case scenario, you can just grab it with your hands and twist it. But yeah, as long as this will just get faster and faster over time. This will probably be at 3 minutes. Start screaming, but we probably won't. We'll let her go down, but y'all get the gist of it.
So talking about manually operating the door, all these policies, and this is an area that may see this, right? You know, is always just to use the egress. Last year, they down in New Orleans or down in Louisiana, they had some stores that were without power for an extended period of time for obvious reasons, right? Following storms, where they had trucks backed up, refrigerated, pulling out of them, right? And so they were needing to get stock from the boxes to the refrigerated trucks. And, you know, we kind of worked at that time. Brad Birchfield was still with Aldi, and we worked with that team to figure out what the method would be, because they didn't really want anybody using tools, like even a drill right there. And we've got a video that I'll send y'all a link to. But basically, we just said if that's the case, just make it a 2-man job. Have somebody pull the door open with the egress tracks, go in there with your pallet jack, come back out and shut it, because their thing was they didn't really want to raise and lower it during that time. So that was really that's kind of what we recommended for them if y'all ever do end up in a situation post-storm where you got a store that's, you know, going to be days without power.
And I think we're pretty much at the point. If you guys got questions or want to do anything, we can do that. If you don't, I think it'd be good for you to take them to the YouTube channel, show them some of those, but also those
manuals.
PDFs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could do that one. Like say you lower it down, will we go back to the settings? Or
I'm sorry.
like if you do the manual part of it, to lower it down or raise it up, does it automatically go back to the reset the limits? Or
Yeah. So once you've done that, you're going to shut the power off to do it manually. Don't do it with the power on. I mean, you can shut it off in the switch. Don't do it with the power on. So the first time you turn that power back on, you're going to hit open. It's going to go find home, and it'll go right back to normal.
what it was programmed?
Yeah. It's all, anytime I power cycle, it's going to go trip that home switch.
So over in Slidell, Louisiana.
But he says it still brings power to your on the freezer.
The freezer, we're using auxiliary outlets for door switch, shutter times, refrigeration off. Auxiliary output 1, regardless of how I have it set up, it's constantly sending out a closed signal. Didn't matter if I had power to the door turned on, off, it's like the dry contact was stuck. I actually had to wind up moving over onto auxiliary output 2 and using the closed function just to change my parameters I need to make it read right. Is there anything we can do in that situation? Or
Give us a call. Yeah, give us a
I'm
call.
going to call you, and it was one of those days I was like, man, it's working, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. No, just give us a call, and Shane would have to get you a new board. It would be something in that board.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But like you say,
Somebody might have threw a voltage at it and burnt something up or what.
Yeah.
It's just what.
Yeah. But the good thing is you have the second one to go to.
Yeah, the second one, you're able to flip it over and it works just fine.
I was just going to mention what all exactly needs to be cleaned as far as for the freezers, you know, the adhesive. When you come on the tracks, like the inside in on that, or
I mean, this really is not going to be your problem. Your problem with the rolling up and down part is going to be with somebody in there. They are.
somebody went in, two went in.
They went out to manual.
Okay. Alright. Do this, and I'll turn the power off. And I'll show you. Another thing I need to show you guys, especially y'all doing maintenance. I'm gonna turn this power off so we can. But before I turn this power off, jog mode. If you ever call me or Shane, we say, let's put it in jog.
You hold the 2 buttons down?
These two, yeah.
Yep.
So if the door moves in jog, everything mechanically is fine.
Okay.
We know that.
Yeah.
So,
That's like you just asked earlier, I knew it was something like that.
yeah, just these two. Usually I get people on the phone and they're holding these and I'm like, it ain't doing it. And I was like, well, no, of course not. But you'll shut your power off and come in here. Pull that out. Your issue is going to be this one feels good, but it's normally on your freezer anyway. Yeah, the heat. But it's going to be right up in here and through this first foot or so in here. That's where that stick is going to hold that door up because it may be the first 3 feet or so, but it's going to be close to that safety eyes where it starts to hang.
Okay.
Because basically what it's doing, this is rolled up in there and it's trying to flip itself out.
The one over in Pensacola, I cleaned it off already, but it was somebody that.
And like I said, we've got that issue fixed, but there's doors that's left. Even the next month or two, just because those doors may be shipped, sitting in a store for a couple months before they were installed. So keep that eye out, but in the next 3 to 4 months, you shouldn't ever have to look for it again. But just in that time, but yeah, it's going to be, it's tied in with this flap. That's exactly where it is. So it's going to be your bottom 3 feet, just pull it out just like that. Yeah. Throw her back in and make sure all 3 pieces.
So any delivery should go down
Now, in the plant, to clean this panel off, they use Goo Gone.
So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't using something.
Now, that adhesive truly is sewn inside that tape. You're not even touching. You're not. Well, I say adhesive. That adhesive is to hold the steel for them to sew. So that's really what it's for. Yeah, when they cut that, it's three separate panels, and 3 panels all sewn together at that bottom, which we just saw. But when they cut them off a robo, they're completely flat. So they stick the magnet and tape, and then it goes to the sewing line. And the sewers, they're just hitting on both sides of the magnet. So that's really all that tape's there is to get it through the sewing section. Yeah. Well, the sewing section, but it holds it. It creates the sleeve, but it's the most productive way to do it.
What was the EOF one? You said the encoder job or encoder.
Yeah. So EOF one on the old ones is going to give you cord and encoder, but don't read that and see EOF one and think encoder because it's probably not it. EOF one is truly a directional fault. That just means if it's EOF one, I failed opening, or EOF two, I failed in closing. So that's really what that is. You get those codes, you can call us.
I fixed it, but that's what I did. I had one where I fixed the curtain and all, whatever.
Yeah. So it tried to open and it was hung up on the side, probably wrinkled here, hung up there with the tension pipes against the side, and it just stalled the door out, and it gives you that EOF one.
And that's what we were talking about, because I didn't know if somebody's going through the recording and was hitting it, messed it up or something, but I'm thinking now it's the adhesive that's catching it on that side.
Yeah, very well could be, yeah. And like I said, next few months, watch for it, but then after that's over, it's done. Yeah, this new acrylic tape, we put it to the test. We put it hot. We got it much harder than we're going to run it, and it's not doing the same thing. So, that's just one of those elements you don't see coming, right? So, yeah, we had one guy change the panel, got a new panel. We're still using old tape, so then 2 months later he had the same thing. So, of course, that was a Cody get up there. I got up there and I'm like, yeah, that's just the same date frame of that panel. They basically ordered a door and a replacement panel to have. So we used that replacement panel that was built at the same time. So, hey, you didn't turn on that switch. Oh gosh. That's why y'all are doing it. Let's get this. That way you can get your